folks. Tonight on The Smooth Sound, we're going to talk about the devastation heavy metal pollution is causing in our own Long Island Sound. Now, heavy metals are any relatively dense metal element noted for their toxicity to life. There's 17 of these metals that are biologically available and can interrupt the groove of life. Most notably, copper, iron, mercury, silver, and the ever so smooth lead. Now, there are three general styles that all these metals can be sorted into based on their biological significance. Three are nutrients and can be used in every song: iron, molybdenum, and manganese. Others are trace metals that are used only in small solos, but toxic in higher doses, and include zinc, nickel, copper, vanadium, cobalt, tungsten, and chromium. Finally, there are heavy metals that have no use at all and will ruin any beat, and this group includes arsenic, mercury, silver, antimony, cadmium, lead, and uranium. We have to find out where these metals came from and ways to edit them out. Thanks for joining me on The Smooth Sound.
So today we're going to talk about Long Island Sound metal pollution sources and sinks. So in the Long Island Sound, there's a correlation between anthropogenic forcings and increased metal loadings. In the region, areas with higher population had areas of higher metal concentrations than areas with lower population. This resulted in a concentration gradient going from the eastern to western Long Island Sound. These areas of higher population are a risk for urban runoff, which acts as a source of heavy metals due to surface water runoff over the impermeable surfaces found in urban areas. Other sources to the sound are local discharges from rivers and point sources. There's a rerouting of the fresh water from rivers through shoreline wastewater treatment plants, which can then discharge waste products into the sound. Both treated and industrial sewage sources are major sources for silver, lead, nitrates, and phosphates into the sound. Major riverine sources are the East River, Housatonic River, Connecticut River, and Thames River. These rivers are sources of cadmium, copper, and mercury, with over 75% of the mercury input into the sound resulting from river leachings. Fluxes in the depositional rates of these rivers can account for most of the total flux in Long Island Sound. These regional point sources dominate the contributions from atmospheric deposition. Contaminated sediments in these rivers are sources to the Long Island Sound metal loadings, but also act as sinks for the metals, which will then get introduced to the sound through the remobilization of sediment during runoff.
Here on Earth, we see the impacts of heavy metal pollution in the marine environment in a variety of ways. At the molecular level, metals have a high affinity for oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and other functional groups of biomolecules. These intriguing biomolecules can then become mutagenic or even carcinogenic to organisms. These can seriously impact respiratory, signaling, and metabolic processes. Enzymes are also susceptible to influence by metals, and once these metals bind to the enzymes, they become unusable to the organism. These impacts primarily affect the wondrous phytoplankton that forms the basis of the food web in Long Island Sound. The loss of phytoplankton has a cascading effect up the food web, impacting organisms at all trophic levels. As these metals move up the food web, they become concentrated in higher organisms, such as the great indigenous American lobster. If metal pollution is not addressed, these miraculous organisms could disappear from the face of our planet forever.
Are you tired of all those heavy metals in your sound? Mercury and arsenic pollution got you down? Well, I'll tell you what, you need Mr. Metal Mitigation Man. You know, he comes from England. You know, the English always make good stuff. You know, this guy couldn't even wait to get started regulating. Let's go see what he's already done. That leaded gasoline, taken care of. Mercury thermometers, not on his watch. But he won't stop there. He'll put a stop to coal burning, polluting incinerators. That'll keep out that dirty runoff. Wherever there's heavy metal pollution, you need Mr. Metal Mitigation Man. But that's not it. If you call in the next 20 minutes, then you'll get 2 Mr. Metal Mitigation Mans. That's a crazy deal. You'd be insane to pass it up. For just 3 easy payments of $19.95, you get all